Inside the historic Kremlin complex in Moscow, there are two famous relics on display: the giant Tsar Bell, which has never rung, and the colossal Tsar Cannon, which is widely believed to have never been fired in combat, though some studies suggest it may have been test-fired at least once. In this context, the word Tsar is used as a prefix to suggest that while these objects are impressively large, they're ultimately useless. There's no question that the Tsar Bell is the largest bell ever made. As for the Tsar Cannon, while it boasts a massive caliber, it lacks the range and efficiency of today's modern artillery. In fact, some of the aerial bombs we have now are massively larger than the old Tsar Cannon. And of course, the stack of outdated cast-iron cannonballs sitting beside the Tsar Cannon doesn't even come close to competing with today's high-powered bombs. Which just goes to show that over the last 500 years, weapons engineers have seriously stepped up their game. If you were to place one of those old medieval cannons or bombs next to today's delivery systems or modern ammunition, it would look downright primitive. But in the world of weaponry, it's not about how big something looks. What really matters is how much destruction it can cause. The name Tsar Bomba was given to a bomb that earned that title through pure unimaginable power. It became the most devastating weapon humanity has ever created. And unlike the ancient Tsar Bell or Tsar Cannon, which were never actually put to use, this bomb was very real, and it was actually detonated. Hey everyone, welcome! On October 30th, 1961, the Soviet Union detonated its massive hydrogen bomb, RDS-220, also known as Product 602, at an altitude of about 13,000 feet above Severny Island in the Novaya Zemlya archipelago. That explosion turned out to be the most powerful nuclear blast in all of human history, and its estimated yield was a staggering 58.6 megatons of TNT. Almost instantly, news outlets around the world gave it a fitting name, the Tsar Bomba, borrowing from Russian tradition. And now, we're thrilled to have you here on our channel. Let's get started! The making of the Tsar Bomba. The Soviet Union is believed to have begun developing its ultra-powerful hydrogen bomb in 1956. For many years, the Soviets had lagged behind the United States in nuclear weapons technology, but by this point, they had nearly closed the gap. That's when the Soviet leadership, led by First Secretary of the Communist Party Nikita Khrushchev himself, gave nuclear physicists a bold mission, not just to catch up with the American imperialists, but to surpass them. To make that happen, the USSR gathered some of the top nuclear scientists of the time. Their assignment was to design and build a hydrogen bomb, also known as a thermonuclear bomb. Unlike a regular atomic bomb, which relies on the energy released by splitting atoms apart, this weapon was powered by the energy produced when atoms are fused together. Technically speaking, a conventional nuclear bomb was used as a trigger to create the extreme conditions needed to ignite a hydrogen fusion reaction. At first, the plan was to build a bomb with a yield of 100 megatons of TNT. But later, they decided to scale it down by half, bringing the explosive power to 50 megatons. That doesn't mean the Soviet Union suddenly had a change of heart and discovered humanitarian values. The real reason for reducing the bomb's power was to give the delivery aircraft enough time to escape to a safe distance before the detonation. Even so, by any standard, the bomb was colossal. It measured 26 feet in length, 7 feet in diameter, and weighed a massive 60,000 pounds. Just for comparison, in a much more recent event, the United States used a ground-penetrating bomb, the GBU-57, in Iran on June 22, 2025, more than 60 years after the Tsar Bomba was created. That bomb was about 20 feet long and weighed about 29,000 pounds. Preparing the delivery aircraft. When the plan for testing the Tsar Bomba was first set in motion, there wasn't a single aircraft capable of carrying and dropping a bomb that massive. The best candidate was the heavy strategic bomber Tu-95, but it needed some serious modifications. So at the Kuibyshev aircraft plant, engineers removed the bomb bay and the auxiliary fuel tanks from the Tu-95. To shield the aircraft from intense radiation and the searing heat of the blast, they also fitted it with a special protective coating. And to buy enough time for the bomber to get clear of the explosion, The hydrogen bomb was equipped with a parachute system designed to slow its descent. Thanks to these safety measures, the bomber's crew was bought an extra 45 to 50 seconds of flight time, allowing them to escape to a safe distance of roughly 30 miles. The modified bomber, designated Tu-95V or Tu-95202, was built for one purpose only: to drop the Tsar Bomba. In fact, just one of these aircraft was ever constructed. Conducting the test. By July of 1961, preparations for the hydrogen bomb detonation were already complete, but Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev decided to postpone the test after tensions with the United States temporarily eased. However, when relations between the two countries soured again later that year, Khrushchev made the decision to show the entire world what he called Kuzka's mother. That now famous Russian phrase, "to show someone Kuzka's mother," was meant as a threat, and it caught on in the West, leading the media there to refer to the bomb by the same nickname. The nuclear test was scheduled for October 30th. The bomb was loaded onto a specially prepared Tu-95V bomber, and the mission was led by Major Andrei Dernovtsev. And interestingly, his last name, Dernovtsev, was strangely fitting for the role he played. In Russian, his name can be interpreted as something like descendant of a reckless and foolish troublemaker. There were 7 crew members on board, and according to expert estimates at the time, their chances of survival were only about 50%. At 11:32 a.m. Moscow time, the bomb was successfully released near Cape Sukhoi Nos on Severny Island, part of the Novaya Zemlya archipelago. The bomb was dropped from an altitude of 33,000 feet. It detonated at about 13,000 feet above the ground, though some experts claim the exact altitude was closer to 12,000 feet. From release to detonation, exactly 188 seconds passed. During that brief time, the bomber that dropped the plane managed to get 24 miles away, while a second observation plane, a Tu-95A, retreated to a distance of 33 miles. The actual blast yield was estimated at 58.6 megatons of TNT. To this day, no nuclear bomb more powerful than that has ever been developed. In the United States, a hydrogen bomb known as the B-41, with a theoretical yield of 25 megatons, was deployed in limited numbers up until 1976, but even its test detonations were only conducted at half strength. Back to the Tsar Bomba. The shockwave caught up with the bomber 71 miles away from ground zero. Even at that distance, the plane was violently shaken and suddenly dropped more than 2,600 feet in altitude. According to the pilot's own account, the intense heat from the initial blast momentarily filled the entire cockpit. Later analysis revealed that the radiation that had reached the bomber had severely degraded its exterior paint. But all of that was nothing compared to the overwhelming visual power of the explosion itself. In the first few seconds, a fireball nearly 5.5 miles wide appeared in the sky, and its blinding light remained visible for over a minute, far too bright for the human eye to withstand. A towering mushroom cloud rose after the fireball, reaching a staggering height of 42 miles. The mushroom cap stretched nearly 37 miles across at high altitude and about 15 miles wide near the ground. The shockwave from the explosion was so massive it circled the entire Earth 3 times. In the village of Severny, located 34 miles from ground zero, every wooden house was incinerated by nuclear fire, and even the brick structures were destroyed. Windows shattered in towns and villages as far as 560 miles away, including areas of Finland and Norway. Under clear skies, the flash of the explosion lasted between 65 and 70 seconds, and it was witnessed by people up to 620 miles away. Those who accidentally looked directly at the blast from within 100 miles suffered severe retinal burns. And according to multiple sources, a wave of hot, humid air lingered after the blast, making the sea itself begin to glow. If there's a silver lining to this nuclear explosion, it's that the radioactive fallout turned out to be relatively limited. That minimal fallout was thanks to a combination of atmospheric conditions and the lead tamper that was used in the bomb's design. Just 2 hours after the blast, radiation levels in the area had already dropped to a point that was no longer life-threatening. The results of the test. News of the Tsar Bomba test sent a massive shockwave through the international community. Nikita Khrushchev had hoped that this overwhelmingly powerful explosion would intimidate the United States and other rival nations, But in the end, it achieved far more than that. This terrifying display of force struck fear into the hearts of all humanity. What truly stunned the world was that, for the first time, the theory of limitless hydrogen bomb power had been proven real. In fact, 3 years earlier, American scientists had already warned about the terrifying potential of an unstoppable hydrogen bomb. With this apocalyptic weapon on full display, governments and citizens around the globe were forced to confront the real possibility that such power could wipe out the human race. Eventually, on August 5, 1963, the Soviet Union, the United States, and the United Kingdom signed the Partial Nuclear Test Ban Treaty in Moscow. This treaty banned nuclear explosions in the atmosphere, in outer space, and underwater. It's worth noting that the Tsar Bomba was never added to the Soviet military arsenal. Only a single bomb was ever made. After the test, the Soviet Union began working on an even more massive 150-megaton nuclear bomb, but that project was ultimately redirected toward developing the Proton rocket for launching spacecraft, and by 1976 it had been completely shut down. If you enjoyed today's video, we'd love it if you gave it a like and shared it on social media. But if this video wasn't to your taste, feel free to give it a thumbs down. We understand. Either way, we're just grateful that you took the time to react. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, take care and goodbye.